Britney Spears' memoir is both a horror story and a cautionary tale. There's a lot to take away from it, but at its core, it's a story about a woman whose bodily autonomy was essentially stripped from her at a young age, by her parents, by the media, by her partners, and by the world at large. The Woman in Me is definitely Spears' story, but it's also a story that's been repeated in various forms many times before. After reading it, sitting in a state of semi-shock while digesting the horrors Spears went through, I found myself thinking of Andrew Dominik's nightmarish 2022 film, Blonde, which portrays a dramatized version of Marilyn Monroe's life. That film arguably exploited Monroe's legacy and repeated some of the same mistakes it tried to criticize, but it also tells the story of a woman whose appearance was commodified and profited off of to the point that it damaged her irreparably. But while both Blonde and The Woman in Me tell the story of women whose bodies were constantly used by both the public and the men in their lives, Spears' memoir is a far better rendition of a similar narrative because it's her own. Like so many people who have lived through similar experiences, Monroe may no longer be able to tell her own story, but now that we have Spears in her own words, we'd all do well to listen to what she has to say. And a lot of what she says is hard to hear. From the beginning, Spears' memoir traces ways that her rights to her own body and personhood have been commodified, criticized, and stripped away. The first headlines to come out about the book detailed an abortion that Spears says she underwent while she was dating Justin Timberlake, which she says wasn't her choice. "If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it," she writes. And yet Justin was so sure that he didn't want to be a father. The experience, which she describes as agonizing, is an important reminder that truly free, equitable abortion access means allowing women to choose whether or not they want to get abortions, not forcing them to make a certain choice one way or another. From start to finish, Spears' memoir details the awful consequences of what can happen when choice is taken away many times over. It's not news that Spears' appearance was constantly controlled and exploited by others over the course of her career. During her rise in the wilderness of the early 2000s, when thinness was all the rage and women were expected to somehow both be incredibly sexual yet also sweet and demure, though that arguably that hasn't changed, Spears was both highly sexualized and demonized for it.